Hello, and welcomes back everyone. And Wolf here with even more Star Wars The Old Republic. And this is a very brief, or maybe somewhat brief, kind of part 1.5 to my new Jedi Knight series here with Aeva Var. I thought rather than spend 10 minutes or so going through some of the UI elements that we're going to be frequently visiting, I would quickly add just a interlude part to the series so that we can get straight into the Gnarls region and into some gameplay and combat in an actual part 2. So I thought I'd just quickly do a 1.5 and show you the various UI elements, the windows we're going to be constantly opening, and maybe talk about the interface editor as well. I did go over that in my Bounty Hunter series, but it was kind of, I think it was on our way to Tatooine. So it was reasonably deep, or maybe on the way to Balmora. Either way, it was some way into the series. And people do ask me sometimes how I set up my quick bars and such. So this part is really just an interlude. There's going to be no combat, no storyline. Feel free to skip ahead if you're not interested. I more than understand. But if you do want to see some of the UI elements that are new to Legacy of the Sith, that you're not familiar with and that we're going to be using quite often, feel free to stick around. And also, if you want to see how I arrange my interface, you're more than welcome to stick around as well. It's up to you. Right. One brief mention. I recorded part 1 a couple of hours ago now, by the time I'm recording this. I apologise that I may sound a bit strange. For those of you who know, or because you may be watching this series down the line in the future, I actually am I'm about 90% recovered, but I have come down with the coronavirus. It's not as, it's a milder variant. I mean, people have got it a lot worse than me, and I can totally understand and sympathise with them. I've been hoping to avoid it this entire time. Hell, I don't really go very far for work, and I don't really interact with many people. So I've been hoping to avoid it, but no, I've had it for almost a week now, and I've just tested myself prior to doing this recording. I'm still positive, but the symptoms are wearing off, shall we say, but I can't speak for long. So I'm waiting until I'm fully recovered to do the next part, which is why I'm also doing this part, because it's going to be fairly small, fairly short. I can't speak for more than maybe half an hour before my throat decides to give in on me. So if you do hear my throat sound again a bit rough, forgive me, or at least I hope you'll forgive me. Right, that unfortunate explanation out of the way, let's talk about the... Oh, bloody hell. There you go, the UI elements first. We'll talk about the interface first of all, the various quick bars we have here. So, right, we have various windows. We have like a quick mission tracker here, which is connected to the mission log, which we'll talk about. This gives us an idea of what our quests currently are. Purple quests tend to mean they are class specific, or maybe the major world mission. Oh, they're important. Let's just put it that way. Whereas there are yellow or golden quests, which are your side and optional quests, which will also earn you more experience and rewards, but they're not essential to the character and the storyline of that world, apart from giving it a bit more depth, a bit more lore. Obviously, we have our character portrait here, which we can mouse over. We have a tooltip telling us our character's name. We are level 1, our health, which is also indicated by this red bar. We do have the information text on, telling us our actual percentage health and our total health. And we have underneath this, we have another bar, which is our unique energy resource. As a Jedi Knight, we have a resource known as Focus. We gain focus from using various skills in combat. It builds up using certain skills, or taking damage, and then you consume it by using more powerful skills than your basic ones. So we have this basic strike here, dealing so much weapon damage. and it generates 2 focus. But we could consume 3 focus to use our slash ability, which is almost double in terms of damage. But of course it costs focus to actually cast or activate. In addition, we have Force Leap, which has a range of 10 to 30 meters, has a 15-second cooldown, jumps to a target dealing a small amount of damage. It interrupts that target's action, stuns them, immobilizes them for 2 seconds, and actually builds free focus when you use this ability. This is an ability you're going to see me using very often, as it is a very good skill to initiate combat within that 10 to 30 meter range. While out of combat, we also have this ability called Introspection. We can activate it, and we can rapidly regenerate our health out of combat. Now, our health will regenerate naturally, just at a slower degree, and that is determined by one of our attributes. So, obviously we can target ourselves or target someone else, like one of the NPCs here. They'll tell us their level, how far they are away from us, how much health they have. We can also go over their portrait to get a tooltip giving us all of that information. What else do we need? Obviously our quick bars, which we've talked about briefly. I do have a couple of other abilities, and we'll talk about those later. And as a Jedi Sentinel, or as a Jedi Knight, we have various various minor buffs to our character. We have a sprint, which most people have, or which people can unlock at the very least. And then we have various buffs like Force Valor, Force Might, Fortification, and Lucky Shots. Most players will unlock these from their legacy bar. If we go to like Republic classes here, you can see that buff here is unlocked from completing the class specific missions up to Chapter 2 or to the end of Chapter 2. Now, this is also true if you choose an Imperial class, you can pick up their abilities as well, which are exactly the same, just have a different icon. And a different name, of course. So we'll eventually end up probably getting more buffs, more debuffs. In fact, in my inventory here, I have an experience booster, which will last for 3 hours, boosting all my experience by 25%. And that will end up on a buff on my bar here as well. And obviously we can see if any enemies have buffs and debuffs also. So, what else do we need to look at? We'll talk about arranging the UI. We have our mini-map here, which we can zoom into. So it's indicating that there is a Republic service droid over here, which we can actually sell items to if we have any vendor trash. We also, if we die, we may also resurrect here. There's also a transport service droid, which you actually can see in action. Someone's actually just arrived here at the Master's Retreat, whereas they may want to go back over to the Gnarls. We pull out our map here. Obviously here's the Master's Retreat, where we started. And obviously we are heading over to the Gnarls area where the other Padawans are being attacked. This is the entirety of Tython. We're going to be here for maybe 2-3 hours, depending on how long it takes us to complete our various quests here. We'll unlock more of the map as we step into those areas. So, yes, interface editor. So if I escape out, we have our preferences for our various key bindings, various elements. In fact, in the interface, I need to turn one of these on. That's the one. But the interface editor allows you to move all the various windows around to your leisure. We actually have one. We have the Valakar interface set like loaded at the moment, but if I load, say, advanced, you'll see how it's laid out a bit differently. But if we want to say change the advanced, we could grab the various windows and say we'll keep 1 and 2, but say we want quick bar 5, why not? We'll change that to... We'll have 12. We'll only have 10 abilities in it. But we'll move it to 10. That's fine. We will enable it. Let's see. Let's line this up. There you go. We can save. And then pull out. See how it looks if we want to move it a bit further down, a bit further up. So you've got our buff trays here. Kind of move things out the way, and then you can move things back down if you so wish. Once you're happy. So pull the holo communicate out the way, like group windows, basically move everything to your desire. You can actually make the quick bars smaller with the scaling. But little things, move it to your leisure. Make it as decorative or as minimalist as you actually want it. And you can really try to make this as minimalist as you want so you can see more of the world around you. I would actually eventually like to do a series where I just don't have the UI up and running. Apart from maybe like a like popping it on for when we have the holo communicator. But the problem with that is every time you level up, you may learn a new ability. Now the abilities automatically appear on your quick bar. And we'd have to learn, like really learn well when our abilities are coming off cooldown, because we could use force sleep and then mentally have to count 15 seconds to know when it's going to be available again. Or just use it per once every combat encounter, because we'll know by then the 15 seconds will have elapsed. But yeah, what else? So, we should pull out the character window here. This is basically a one-shop stop now. Used to have, like, you've got the inventory separate. And obviously we do have a little crafting material inventory, which is separate. This also contains our mission items and our unique or universal currencies. If they decide to play nice, there you go. So there are things like tech fragments, medals of commendation. Those are used at level 80. Haven't yet looked at them for anyone. There's some other things like Underworld Syndicate plans, which are used on SWTOR, with the Shadow Syndicate, which as a player of the Republic, I don't think we really know anything about the Shadow Syndicate, but we'll talk about that in the future. But the inventory is also here as part of the character window. The character window has been made simple. So you have damage here, giving you the approximate damage dealt per second by a standardized ability based on our character's weapons and attributes. Our survivability, how much damage we must take per second to defeat us in 15 seconds. So at the moment we could kill ourselves almost 3 times over within 15 seconds according to our stats. And support is how much healing we can do per second. As a Jedi Sentinel, support should be pretty low because really we shouldn't have any healing skills apart from maybe self-heals. We have our various equipables here. We have our main hand and offhand weapons. As a Sentinel, we wield 2 vibro swords right now. We actually are meant to be using training sabers. I'm not a fan of the training sabers. Mainly because when they're sheathed, they're on your back. So I actually spent a bit of time and purchased a couple of Beshkad. Basically, these blades are weak right now, but at least they sheath at your hips. So they've got that going for them. In addition, we can have 1 head slot, wrist guards, chest piece, gloves, our feet, belt, and of course leggings. These are all can basically bolster your armor and various attributes. And then of course you can have 1 earpiece, 2 implants, 2 relics, and finally at either level 75 or level 80, I'm still not sure which it is. It was level 75 prior to the expansion. They may have made that higher now. But 1 tactical slot. If you want to look into your attributes and what they may actually mean, you can go into details here for a more detailed explanation of your various stats. Mastery is how much damage you deal, how much of a chance you have to land a critical hit. So your critical chance. But then you also have your... Yeah, so your mastery actually does benefit to critical as well. You have your endurance, which is your maximum health and your health regeneration during combat. You have power. Actually, was it out of combat healing? Maybe out of combat healing. But then you do have your introspection. Power bolsters your mastery, how much damage you deal. Critical is your chance to land a critical hit and how much bonus damage that critical hit will actually do. Alacrity is how fast some of your abilities will recharge, say if they have a cooldown, or some abilities have an activation, say they need to... It takes them 1.5 seconds to activate. Well, if you have more alacrity, it may only take you 1 second to activate that skill. Very handy. If you have a lot of those abilities. Accuracy, self-explanatory, the chances to land a hit on an opponent. And then finally, defense, absorption, and shielding. All are to do with tanking classes. We don't need to worry about those so much. Presence is the effectiveness of your companion. How much health they have, how much damage they deal, and how much healing they can actually provide to your character. And then, of course, we can look at our various melee, how much damage we deal with our primary weapon or secondary weapon, how much bonus damage is added and why it is. So bonus damage here is affected by power, mastery, and what buffs we have equipped. And of course our defense, how much health we have, our armor rating, how much damage reduction we have, because of what reasons. All these lovely things. Either way. The outfitter. So at the moment we're really meant to be looking like this. Because we have the Padawan gear. But with the outfitter, you can equip certain bits of armor, which you can wear for your level, and you can look how that outfit looks while having the stats of the gear you actually have equipped. Kind of a transmog system. It's handy because you can have multiple outfits saved. So yeah, it is rather useful. Combat style. We have one combat style currently available to us, our Sentinel, but we have 3 disciplines. The disciplines aren't so important until we are level 15, it seems, when we start getting some unique abilities to that certain discipline. We may stick with combat, and I'll talk about that in a moment, because this actually does affect your various abilities. Actually, we look at our abilities now. General... Nope. Sentinel. We start off with a passive lightsaber form, the Shicho form. It's a balanced lightsaber form. It increases all damage dealt and reduces all damage by 3%. But if we want to go down the combat tree, at level 15 we'll unlock the Ataru form, which is an acrobatic lightsaber form. Increases our alacrity by 3%. The Ataru form, I think, is meant to be a more, well, as I say, acrobatic, a bit more energetic, which I think fits our character. We could, of course, look at the other forms. I think concentration may make use of Shicho. Watchman may actually use another lightsaber form. I'm not 100% sure, it's been a little bit too long. But I may just go down the combat route. We shall see. Or maybe we'll switch it up. You never know. Loadouts we're not going to really worry about so much. And we don't have a companion right now to really look at our companions and how we could dress them up. So, what else do we need to look at? A mission log. Why not? A mission log. So, we have our first quest here. Flesh Raiders have mounted an assault on the Jedi training grounds on the Gnolls. Darren Weller, the Jedi Knight we encountered, has asked us to help us ward off the threat. We must use the transport service droid here at Master's Retreat and gain transportation to the Gnolls. And then, of course, there'll be a further mission to no doubt deal with the Flesh Raider assault once we get down there. And we know we'll get so many credits, so much experience, we'll actually gain a minor med pack, and actually a new training saber for our troubles. Speaking of experience, this little bar here is our experience bar. When it fills up, we'll be level 2. Happy days. Conquest we don't need to worry about until we're level 10. The Codex. If we want to learn about various planets, various species, people of interest, we could go to the Codex here, like Tython. A mysterious, deep core world is the birthplace of the Jedi Order. Millennia ago, Typhonian warriors and scholars developed a unique and mystic and martial philosophy while studying the Force. Today, their Jedi descendants excavate ancient Typhonian ruins and relearn what was lost. After the recent destruction of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, the Jedi made their new home here on Tython. So yeah, the Jedi I should say, are now training a new generation of Padawans. And yeah, that's really about it. The last thing we need to look at really is the map. We're going to activate our exploration missions, which are additional side missions which we could perform. And as I say, the last thing we're looking at is the world map here. There are different instances, so later on in some worlds there will be a PvP instance where both players of the Republic and the Empire will be working on the planet at the same time for their own interests. And so we no doubt will be probably jumping over to the PvP instance where it'll be a bit quieter, so we won't be fighting with other players of the Republic for various mobs for our quests. But at the same time, we may encounter a player from the Empire who we can challenge to a duel, perhaps. Either way, I feel my throat getting a little bit sore, but we've talked about everything we really need to talk about, so when we come back in the actual part 2 of this series, we will be on our way down to the Knolls to fend off this Flesh Raider assault. And then see what this Darren Weller has to say. See what we can learn from the Flesh Raiders and proceed with our final trials. Thank you all for joining me. If you've stuck around this long, I understand that this wasn't all that interesting. But hopefully I'll see you for more next time. Until then, though, take care. Bye-bye now.